First and foremost, thank you for coming on the platform. It's definitely an honor. I truly appreciate everything that you have contributed, with your comic strips. Definitely some of the most iconic ones that we had the privilege to, read and look over. I grew up on them, so I want to ask you, for the viewers who may not recognize you, let them know who you are and definitely where you're from.
Well, I'm Tom Batiuk, and I'm the creator of the comic strips Funky Winkerbean. I live in Ohio.
Okay, okay. That's what's up. I'm from Ohio myself. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. Now, I can ask you,
Oh,
coming
okay.
from, yeah, yeah. Now, coming from Ohio, what influenced you to even, want to take that path to create comic strips?
I had always wanted to create comic strips, and I was teaching art in Elyria, Ohio, at Eastern Heights Junior High. I'm doing art sketches, some just spot cartoons and things like that. Um, and the sketchbook contained drawings of kids from my classes, and I would put little captions or have them say funny things. And when the editor looked at my sketchbook, he said, we want to have a cartoon on something we call a Tuesday team page. Would you want to do this cartoon once a week? And I jumped at the chance. And so I started doing this cartoon about kids in school. And so that's what initially got everything started for me.
Oh, okay. I appreciate you sharing that. Now, did you grow up reading comic strips yourself? Did you have a favorite or anything like that?
Oh yeah, I was born in Akron, Ohio, and I grew up reading the Akron Beacon Journal, and I love the comic strips like Flash Gordon, Prince Valiant, all of those things. And then later, as I grew up, I started liking strips, humor strips like Peanuts. My first move was to go to New York, and I tried to get a job at Marvel Comics or DC Comics.
That sounds like an amazing journey. Now, were you able to secure one of those jobs, or did you have to take an alternate route?
Absolutely not. So I went to DC Comics, and they sort of brusquely turned me down, and it was justified. I mean, the work wasn't, professional standards. They were right in turning it down. I went to Marvel Comics and talked to a gentleman named Roy Thomas, and he was a true gentleman. He turned me down, but it was in a very nice way that didn't sort of crush your hopes and dreams. And he said, "This is as good as what we're doing now. We need better than that." So, and he invited me to come back and try again. So he was very nice.
Now, how did you get to the next level? When did you get your first big break? After obviously you didn't work out with Marvel or DC, but you kept perfecting your craft. What was the next step for you?
Well, I did those cartoons for a couple of years, the once a week cartoons. I started getting a good reaction to them. So I took them to a syndicate that was in Cleveland at the time, Newspaper Enterprise Associates. There on West Third Street, and they looked at my strips. They looked at the panels, the cartoon panels, and suggested I turn them into a strip. So I immediately did that. Took those back. They decided that they were going to take a pass on those. So I took those strips that I created, and I went to New York, and I visited all the other syndicates. My first trip to New York, Publishers Hall Syndicate liked my work, and they signed me to a contract.
Now, what time frame is this?
It took a long time to finally hit the papers. Funky started on March 27th, 1972. But during that year in between, my syndicate Publishers Hall was moving from New York City to Chicago. And so I continued to do work for the Chronicle Telegram, and I continued creating strips for them, which was great because it gave me a year to sort of practice and sort of bring everything up to speed so Funky could launch in March of 1972. We came out with the strip John Darling in, I think, 1979.
Does it seem like a long
Yeah,
time has passed since then?
it really starts to speed up towards the end. It goes pretty fast. So it went fast for me. You're just sitting at the board every day creating cartoons, and I sat down one day in 1972, and the next time I look up, it's 2022. It's pretty amazing.
Wow, yeah, definitely. That's definitely a staple in the comic world. Now, I can ask you, what was your influence for even creating the Funky Weaker Bean?
Basically it just came from everybody I knew. I put friends and teachers that I knew into the strips to create characters, basically really drawing upon my personal local experience.
Were you involved in any other comic strips?
No, I think three three is a lot, and probably it's too many. But no, that was enough to keep me amply busy, so that was no problem at all.
Okay, okay. Now I can ask you about that because, like you said, it kept you busy. But for the average person, the average reader, when they pick up the paper, a comic strip is not like a book where it's several pages. How much work does it take to create that one strip for that day's paper?
Um, it would probably take a full day. I never really worked that way. I sort of work right a week's worth of strips, then go in and pencil all the strips, and then go back to it and ink all the strips. So I was never actually completing a strip from start to finish during a single day. Sort of like the Henry Ford method. I did kind of an assembly line, and it seemed to go faster that way. It worked better for me.
Okay, okay. Now I can ask you maybe if you could talk about what were your I guess your favorite parts about creating, the strips, and what do you think was the most difficult part? Like, did you have difficulty in terms of creative control, or maybe putting out certain things or anything like that?
Well, I mean, as a young kid, I always wanted to do a comic strip or a comic book character, and so sitting down at the board and being able to do that every day was really the best part. One of the most difficult parts for me was the drawing because I write a lot easier, and so the writing came fast. The drawing came very slowly, which is why when I created John Darling, I had to work with Tom Armstrong. He did the art, and when I spun Crankshaft off, Chuck Ayres joined me and did a beautiful job illustrating Crankshaft because there was no way that I could illustrate all three strips. So the drawing always came kind of slowly. Um, as far as creative control, I was always very lucky. It it was sort of a hands-off thing with me for a long time, and then eventually in a new contract, I got editorial control of my work.
Are you still active? Are you still creating new strips? Are you still, are you doing anything related to art and comic strips?
Yeah, I'm obviously I retired Funky in 2022. And that was kind of nice because I was able to sort of tie a bow on things and for 50 years that I was able to give them a proper storyline and a proper exit, which was very enjoyable. But I'm still doing Crankshaft. I'm doing that with the artist Dan Davis. And so I'm writing new Crankshaft. We're working on Crankshaft strips every day. And I'm starting to create some work that I'll be posting on my website online, some new funky strips, sort of the untold funky stories. So that's pretty much what I'm doing now. Oh, and I'm also putting together the books for Kent State University. The Kent State University Press is bringing out the complete Funky Winkerbean. So volume 13 just came out this year. Volume 14 is sort of at the press right now, being put together. And I'm working on putting together on my end volume 15. So that's very gratifying to have the work collected in those books. They're beautiful books.
Okay, okay. I'm gonna have to check some of those out. I definitely look forward to it. I want to thank you so much. It's definitely been an honor.
Thank you.
Your story is very, very inspiring. Thank you for creating some of the most iconic comic strips on earth. I really appreciate you, and you did a lot for the hometown. Inspiring a lot of up and coming artists. I want to thank the viewers for tuning in. It's been a phenomenal episode. Taye Speaks.
Well, thank you very much.
All right, take care.
Take care. You too.